On the 12th of August 1904, the long-awaited Tsarevich was born, Alexei Nikolaevich. The family and the court were delighted, as was Nicholas's younger brother, Michael, the previous heir to the throne, at being released from being heir. Alexei was immediately named Tsarevich as heir apparent to the Russian throne. But the happiness would soon be overshadowed. It was discovered shortly after birth that Alexei suffered from haemophilia, a genetic condition in which the blood doesn't clot properly. When Alexei's umbilical cord was cut, he bled continuously. His mother, Alexei or Alexandra Fedorovna, recognized the symptoms immediately. His parents worried he would not recover, but he did. As Alexei grew up, it became clear that Alexei had a severe form of the disease. A small cut or bruise could be life-threatening. Alexei took after his mother in looks. He was taller than other boys his age. Alexei's childhood was deeply marked by haemophilia. Due to his constant attacks, his education was often interrupted, and it sometimes took weeks for him to recover. In 1907, Alexei hurt his leg while playing. His leg swelled, and most around him thought he would die, but he recovered. Grigory Rasputin, a peasant monk from Siberia who claimed to have mystical powers, stood in front of Alexei's bed and prayed for him. The next morning his swelling magically disappeared, and Alexei was up in his bed as if nothing had happened. In 1912, Alexei sat with his mother on a ride. The bumpy pathway caused the hematoma from an earlier accident to rupture and start bleeding again. Alexei soon fell unconscious as his temperature rose and his heart rate dropped. Within days, Alexei was receiving the last sacrament, and the newspapers were reporting that Alexei was dying. In her desperation, Alexandra sent a telegram to Rasputin, who advised her to not let the doctors touch Alexei. The next morning, the impossible seemed to happen. Alexei was getting better, and over the next few weeks he fully recovered. In 1914, the First World War broke out, and the following year Alexei was allowed to join his father at army headquarters. Alexei spent long hours in meetings, preparing to one day become the next Tsar of Russia. Alexei enjoyed military life, and was later given the title of Lance Corporal. When Alexei was 6 years old, he walked into his father's office, where the foreign minister was waiting on Nicholas. He remained seated, and Alexei yelled at him that as heir to the Russian throne, when he enters the room, people have to get up. Alexei was spoilt by his parents, and was rarely punished for his behaviour. Nicholas went on to name his son Alexei the Terrible. From a young age, Alexei was fond of everything that had to do with the army. He would attend army inspections with his father, and always wore a miniature military uniform, and carried his wooden rifle with him. His mother forbade him from doing simple things like riding a bike and playing tennis due to the haemophilia. Alexei therefore was often lonely. While Nicholas was the only one Alexei obeyed, he also noticed that he could no longer keep Alexei under control, and so he ordered that his son should be allowed to do the same things others his age were doing. Growing up, Alexei was close to his sisters, especially his oldest sister, Olga. Alexei was the baby of the family and his parents' joy. Following his father's abdication in March 1917, Alexei and his family were put under house arrest. While imprisoned, Alexei would often complain that he was bored. He was allowed to play with the kitchen boy named Leonid. In spring 1918, he had an attack of haemophilia. His parents and his sister Maria were moved to Yekaterinburg, while his other sisters remained with him to help him recover. The remaining members of the family moved to Yekaterinburg in May 1918, where they were imprisoned. There, Alexei spent his final months confined to a wheelchair. On the evening of July 16, 1918, the family was informed that Alexei's playmate had to leave the house, and Alexei was devastated. That same night, shortly before midnight, the whole family was awoken and taken to the basement. Alexandra requested 2 chairs for herself and Alexei, and the guards granted this wish. Alexei sat on the chair as the chief executioner, Yakov Yurovsky, entered the room and read their death sentences. Alexei and his siblings were still alive after the first hail of bullets, as they had jewels sewn into their garments. Alexei's parents were killed almost immediately. Alexei was in shock and could do nothing but remain seated as the guards tried stabbing him with bayonets. When this didn't work, Yurovsky approached him and shot him in the head twice. Unlike the bodies of his parents and 3 of his sisters, Alexei's body was not found until 2007. DNA testing then proved that the remains were indeed those of the last Tsarevich. Alexei's remains are still awaiting burial as of today. He and his whole family were canonized as holy martyrs by the Russian Orthodox Church abroad in 1981. In 2000, they were canonized as passion bearers by the Russian Orthodox Church.